Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to delve into a tragic and horrifying story that took place in Portugal, involving a deadly love triangle. When a person falls in love, they often become weaker, more vulnerable, and prone to idealizing the object of their affection. In such a state, it's difficult to critically assess the qualities of the beloved. Any negativity from their side is quickly justified, and clear problems or odd behaviors are simply ignored. Overwhelmed by feelings, we tend to overlook the shortcomings of our beloved. But if those feelings are not mutual, and the loved one is capable of deceit or criminal acts, the lover can find themselves in serious danger. Several years ago, the story of a young man named Diogo Gonçalves shook all of Portugal due to its cruelty and cold-bloodedness, with two young, fragile-looking girls with angelic appearances as the ruthless perpetrators. The deceased youth and his executioners were participants in a love triangle, but do not be too quick to blame Diogo. He was not romantically involved with the two girls, but became the victim of the schemes and greed of his charming colleague, whom he loved unrequitedly, and her lover. Now, let's carefully examine this complex case from the beginning to understand how quiet and modest beauties turned into cruel criminals, robbers, and carjackers. Diogo Gonçalves was born on July 17, 1999, in the picturesque resort town of Albufeira, located in the south of Portugal. He was the only child of a simple and relatively modest family. His parents ran a small souvenir shop, so their well-being depended directly on the season and the number of tourists visiting the town. Diogo grew up modest, polite, and friendly. He did well in school, was interested in computers from a young age, and dreamed of a career in programming. People spoke of him as an open, sociable young man with many friends, both in and outside of school. He disliked being alone, hence he always sought the company of family or friends. After finishing school, the young man enrolled in a computer academy, but since the education was quite expensive, he also took a part-time job at a fast food restaurant to help his parents and partially pay for his education. Diogo had already established himself as a hard-working and very reliable employee who could be counted on in every way. In early 2017, tragedy struck the Gonçalves family. The family head suffered a severe stroke, which left him balancing on the brink of life and death. For several weeks, when his condition stabilized, the man remained incapacitated for a long time and was under constant medical supervision. But misfortune does not come alone, and while the father fought for his life, his wife was struck by a car on her way to the hospital. The incident happened suddenly at a pedestrian crossing. As the woman reached the middle of the road, a car appeared out of nowhere at high speed, literally throwing her into the air, and without even braking, sped away. The impact was so forceful that the victim was thrown a dozen meters, sustained an open head injury, and had no chance of survival. Medics arrived within minutes, but they could only declare her death. The driver responsible for the fatal accident was detained the next day, but despite the clear evidence of his guilt, a long and complicated legal battle ensued. As the man had hired a competent lawyer, the unfortunate Diogo, not yet 18, was left completely alone. At that moment, his aunt, the sister of his father, arrived in Albufeira and offered to become the guardian of the teenager and to care for her bedridden brother. However, the relationship between the aunt and her nephew was far from perfect. The authoritative woman dictated her rules, which the young man greatly disliked. And as soon as he reached adulthood, he immediately moved to a rented apartment. Maria Malvero's story is one of resilience and determination in the face of adversity. Born in Albufeira, Portugal, Maria came from a humble background, marked by significant family struggles that shaped her aspirations and career path. From an early age, she understood the harsh realities of life, having never known her biological father who abandoned the family when she was very young. This left Maria in the care of her mother and grandmother. Tragically, her grandmother passed away a few years ago, further compounding the family's struggles. Maria's mother, who had always been a cornerstone of strength, was diagnosed with a severe mental disorder, requiring her to be placed in a specialized clinic. The emotional and financial burden of her mother's illness fell squarely on Maria's shoulders. Despite these challenges, Maria was a determined young woman with big dreams. She harbored a strong desire to pursue a career in law enforcement, inspired by a sense of justice and a drive to make a difference. In high school, Maria channeled her energy into sports, becoming physically strong and adept while maintaining a delicate, graceful appearance. She excelled in jiu-jitsu, earning a blue belt, which testified to her discipline and commitment. Her dream was to join the police force, but her mother's mental condition thwarted this aspiration. The police academy rejected her application, citing her family situation as a potential liability. This rejection was a significant blow to Maria, but it did not deter her from seeking other ways to support herself and her mother. Determined to find a way to be independent and financially stable, Maria underwent special training and became a professional security officer. She secured a job in the security department of a prestigious spa center in Albufeira, a role that provided a steady, albeit modest, income. Despite her job's demands and her personal struggles, Maria remained optimistic about the future, holding on to her dreams in the hope that better days lay ahead. Enter Diogo Gonçalves, a young software specialist who started working at the same spa center where Maria was employed. Diogo, with his sociable and friendly nature, quickly integrated into the team and formed friendships with his colleagues. Among them, Maria stood out to him, and he soon found himself captivated by her. Diogo was drawn not only to her physical beauty, but also to her strength and resilience. Diogo's admiration for Maria grew into a deep affection. He admired her from afar at first, watching her as she went about her duties with a quiet grace. He began to court her cautiously, often bringing small gifts, offering to help with tasks, and trying to engage her in conversation whenever he had the chance. Diogo's feelings were genuine and heartfelt. He saw Maria as a beacon of light in his otherwise tumultuous life. However, Maria's responses to Diogo's advances were always polite but non-committal. She appreciated his kindness and the attention he showered on her, but her heart did not reciprocate the romantic feelings he harbored. For Maria, Diogo was a kind colleague and nothing more. She communicated with him willingly, accepted his gifts with a smile, but consistently declined his invitations to go out on dates or spend time together outside of work. Despite the lack of reciprocity, Diogo remained hopeful and continued his efforts to win Maria's heart. He misinterpreted her politeness and friendly demeanor as signs that she might eventually come to love him. Diogo's love for Maria became an all-consuming passion. He even turned down a promising job offer in Lisbon, the capital city, because he didn't want to leave Albufeira and the possibility of a future with Maria. Diogo's unrequited love reached new heights when he began spending a significant portion of his salary on gifts and outings in an attempt to impress Maria. He took her to the finest restaurants, bought her thoughtful presents, and tried to create opportunities for them to spend time together. Yet, despite his best efforts, Maria maintained a distance that Diogo couldn't bridge. What Diogo didn't know was that Maria's reserve wasn't due to shyness or modesty. It stemmed from her own personal struggles and her perception of Diogo as a kind but ultimately insignificant figure in her life. Her polite acceptance of his gestures was more about maintaining harmony in the workplace than any genuine affection. Diogo's hopes were momentarily raised when Maria began to show more interest in him, holding his hand during walks and engaging in deeper conversations. He believed that his persistence was finally paying off and that Maria was starting to reciprocate his feelings. However, this shift in Maria's behavior had a darker motive than Diogo could have ever imagined. Mariana Fanesco, like her friend Maria Malvero, hailed from a humble background. She grew up in Albufeira, a picturesque town in southern Portugal, known for its stunning beaches and vibrant tourism. Mariana's early life was marked by financial struggles, much like Maria's, and the two women found solace and strength in their friendship. Mariana's family provided little financial support, which pushed her to be self-reliant from a young age. After completing her education, Mariana graduated from a nursing college and found work as a basic nurse at a local hospital. Her salary was modest, just enough to cover her essential needs, but not sufficient to fulfill her dreams or secure a stable future. The pressure of financial instability weighed heavily on her, and she often confided in Maria about her worries and aspirations. Maria and Mariana's friendship was built on mutual support and shared dreams. Both women had grand ambitions that seemed out of reach due to their financial constraints. Maria, with her background in security, and Mariana, with her nursing skills, often fantasized about a better life, one where they could afford to live comfortably and support their families without constant worry. They dreamed of renting a place together, but their incomes were too meager to make this a reality. Despite their challenges, the friends maintained a positive outlook, encouraging each other to keep striving for a better future. Their bond was strengthened by their shared experiences and their determination to rise above their circumstances. This close-knit relationship, however, would later become the foundation for a sinister conspiracy that would shock the nation. In January 2020, Diogo Gonçalves, the young software specialist who was deeply infatuated with Maria, mentioned something that caught Maria's attention. During one of their dinners, he casually spoke about the recent court case regarding his mother's tragic accident. The court had found the driver responsible and awarded Diogo a substantial compensation of 100,000 euros. The money had been transferred to his account that very day. Diogo spoke about the compensation with a mix of sadness and detachment, as no amount of money could ever bring back his beloved mother. However, Maria noticed the gleam of opportunity in the revelation. The substantial sum of money represented a chance to change her and Mariana's lives drastically. As Diogo shared this piece of news, he failed to notice the spark of greed igniting in Maria's eyes. After their dinner, Maria wasted no time in sharing the news with Mariana. The two women quickly began to formulate a plan to exploit Diogo's unrequited love and secure the money for themselves. They knew Diogo's feelings for Maria made him vulnerable, and that they could use this to their advantage. The plan was simple, yet devious. They needed to convince Diogo that Maria had finally developed feelings for him, and then use either deceit or force to take the money and escape. Maria and Mariana meticulously crafted their strategy. They decided that Maria would start showing more interest in Diogo, making him believe that his persistence had finally paid off. She began to act more affectionately towards him, holding his hand during walks, and engaging in intimate conversations. Diogo, blinded by his love for Maria, did not question this sudden change in her behavior. He was overjoyed, thinking his deepest dreams were coming true. The friends planned every detail with precision. They needed to gain access to Diogo's bank account and ensure that the money could be transferred smoothly. The first step was to make Diogo believe that Maria truly reciprocated his feelings. This phase of the plan worked flawlessly, as Diogo's guard was completely down. He was ecstatic about the prospect of a real relationship with Maria and did not suspect any foul play. Maria's newfound attention made Diogo even more devoted to her. He continued to spend money on gifts and outings, further convinced that his love was finally being returned. However, this illusion was about to be shattered in the most brutal way. Maria and Mariana's plan moved to the next phase, when Maria suggested a romantic evening together at Diogo's rented apartment. On the evening of Friday, March 20th, 2020, Diogo prepared for what he believed would be a special night. He cooked dinner, set a table for two, bought flowers, and even got a small gift for Maria. When Maria arrived, she brought a fruit drink, urging Diogo to try it. Unbeknownst to him, the drink contained a potent sedative that Mariana had obtained from the hospital where she worked. As Diogo began to feel unwell, Maria pretended to care for him, but her true intentions were far more sinister. She tied him to a chair under the guise of a game and waited for the sedative to take full effect. When Diogo started to panic and call for help, Maria did nothing to calm his fears. Instead, she called Mariana, who was waiting nearby, to join her in the apartment. Mariana arrived to find Diogo incapacitated and at their mercy. Despite his weakened state, Diogo attempted to escape, but Maria used her martial arts skills to subdue him. In the struggle that ensued, Diogo lost consciousness. The two women then accessed his phone using his fingerprints and Face ID, transferring the entire amount of money to Maria's account. Realizing they needed to dispose of Diogo's body to avoid suspicion, they decided to dismember it and scatter the parts in various locations, making it appear as though he had disappeared or taken his own life. They bought plastic wrap and trash bags and used kitchen knives to carry out the gruesome task. Mariana's knowledge of anatomy proved useful as they meticulously cut the body into pieces and disposed of it late at night. Their plan seemed foolproof, but they underestimated the investigation that would follow. The discovery of Diogo's body parts led to a police inquiry that quickly pointed to Maria and Mariana. Despite their initial attempts to cover their tracks, the evidence against them was overwhelming. Maria's abrupt change in behavior, the suspicious bank transactions, and the forensic analysis of Diogo's blood all pointed to foul play. Maria and Mariana's elaborate conspiracy ultimately unraveled, leading to their arrest and the shocking revelation of the true extent of their deceit and cruelty. What began as a desperate attempt to escape their financial struggles ended in tragedy, with both women facing the consequences of their actions. The story of their conspiracy serves as a grim reminder of how far desperation and greed can drive individuals to commit unimaginable acts. Maria Malvero, after years of politely rebuffing Diogo Gonçalves' romantic advances, began to exhibit a sudden and uncharacteristic change in her behavior towards him. Her shift was not born out of genuine affection, but was meticulously planned as part of a dark scheme she concocted with her close friend, Mariana Fanesco. Maria's newfound warmth and interest were calculated to lower Diogo's guard, making him more vulnerable to their upcoming plan. In the weeks leading up to the fateful night, Maria's interactions with Diogo became increasingly intimate. She started spending more time with him, engaging in long conversations, and showing affection that she had previously withheld. Diogo, blinded by his long-standing love for Maria, believed that his patience and persistence had finally paid off. He was overjoyed and hopeful, unaware of the sinister plot unfolding. On the evening of Friday, March 20th, 2020, Maria suggested a romantic dinner at Diogo's rented apartment. Diogo, eager to make the evening special, went all out. He prepared a sumptuous meal, set a beautifully decorated table, bought fresh flowers, and even selected a small gift for Maria. His heart was full of anticipation and joy as he awaited her arrival. Maria arrived with a seemingly innocuous bottle of fruit juice, which she had laced with a potent sedative provided by Mariana, who had access to such substances through her job as a nurse. As they sat down to dinner, Maria encouraged Diogo to drink the juice, masking her true intentions behind a veneer of affection and warmth. Diogo, unsuspecting and deeply in love, complied without hesitation. As the sedative took effect, Diogo began to feel increasingly disoriented and weak. Maria, maintaining her facade of concern, suggested that he sit down and relax. She tied him to a chair, framing it as part of a playful game. Diogo, though confused and groggy, did not resist, still trusting Maria implicitly. Once Diogo was fully incapacitated, Maria called Mariana, who had been waiting nearby for this exact moment. Mariana entered the apartment, and together, they prepared to execute the next phase of their gruesome plan. Despite Diogo's weakened state, he made a feeble attempt to escape, driven by a sudden rush of adrenaline. However, Maria, skilled in martial arts, quickly overpowered him. In the ensuing struggle, Diogo lost consciousness. With Diogo now completely at their mercy, Maria and Mariana set about transferring the 100,000 euros from Diogo's bank account. Using his fingerprints and Face ID, they accessed his phone and completed the transaction, moving the money to Maria's account. Their immediate goal achieved, they turned their attention to disposing of Diogo's body to eliminate any evidence of their crime. The decision to dismember Diogo's body was as cold and calculated as the rest of their plan. They believed that by scattering his remains in various locations, they could obscure the truth and make it appear as though Diogo had disappeared or taken his own life. They purchased plastic wrap, trash bags, and kitchen knives, tools they used to methodically dismember the body. Mariana's medical knowledge came into play as they executed this gruesome task with clinical precision. In the dead of night, the two women transported Diogo's body parts to different locations, disposing of them in a way they hoped would prevent any immediate discovery or identification. After disposing of Diogo's remains, Maria and Mariana took steps to stage his disappearance as a suicide. They left behind a few personal items that suggested Diogo had decided to end his life, hoping to mislead any potential investigation. Confident in their meticulous planning, they believed their tracks were well covered. However, their illusion of security was short-lived. On March 26th, a fisherman discovered Diogo's torso along the Algarve coast. The gruesome discovery immediately sparked a police investigation. The torso was quickly identified as Diogo's, and the police began piecing together the last known movements of the young man. As the investigation progressed, the police focused on the financial transactions in Diogo's accounts. The transfer of 100,000 euros to Maria's account stood out as a significant lead. Investigators began to scrutinize Maria's sudden windfall and her relationship with Diogo. They also noted her abrupt change in behavior towards him just before his disappearance. Police questioned Maria and Mariana, who initially stuck to their cover story. However, under intense interrogation and mounting evidence, their stories began to unravel. Forensic analysis revealed traces of Diogo's blood in Maria's apartment, and surveillance footage captured images of Maria and Mariana on the night of the murder. Confronted with overwhelming evidence, both women eventually confessed to their roles in the crime. They were arrested and charged with murder, dismemberment, and conspiracy. The trial that followed was a sensational affair, revealing the depths of their deception and the calculated brutality of their actions. The case shocked the nation, not only for the heinous nature of the crime, but also for the cold-hearted manipulation that led to Diogo's tragic end. Maria and Mariana's friendship, once a source of mutual support, had morphed into a dangerous alliance driven by greed and desperation. Their plan, born out of a desire to escape their financial struggles, ultimately led to their downfall, leaving a lasting impact on everyone involved. The trial of Maria Malvero and Mariana Fanesco captured the nation's attention, drawing in a massive audience eager to see justice served. The court proceedings were a dramatic spectacle, revealing the depths of human deception and greed. Maria, initially defiant, soon cracked under the weight of evidence and her own guilt. She confessed to her role in Diogo Gonçalves' murder, but attempted to shift the blame onto Mariana. Maria claimed that Mariana was the mastermind behind the plan, manipulating her into participating in the gruesome act. She portrayed herself as a reluctant accomplice, coerced into the crime by Mariana's persuasive and domineering personality. Mariana, on the other hand, maintained her innocence throughout the early stages of the trial. She vehemently denied any involvement, portraying herself as a victim of Maria's lies and manipulations. However, as the evidence mounted, bank records, surveillance footage, and forensic findings, Mariana's facade began to crumble. Under intense cross-examination, she eventually broke down, confirming key aspects of Maria's confession and admitting to her role in the crime. Her admission, though reluctant, painted a picture of mutual complicity rather than a one-sided manipulation. After weeks of emotional testimony and compelling evidence, the jury reached their verdicts. Maria was convicted of first-degree murder, dismemberment, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The judge, sentence reflective of her secondary role and eventual cooperation with the investigation. She was convicted of manslaughter and conspiracy, receiving a 15-year sentence. Due to her cooperation and good behavior, she was eligible for parole after serving 10 years. Years later, after being granted parole, Mariana agreed to an exclusive television interview, which quickly became a media sensation. The interview, intended as a platform for Mariana to share her side of the story, took an unexpected turn. Mariana appeared calm and composed, but her responses were unsettling. She spoke about the events with a chilling detachment, detailing the crime with an eerie lack of remorse. A renowned psychologist, brought in to analyze Mariana's behavior during the interview, concluded that she exhibited traits consistent with psychopathy. The psychologist highlighted her manipulative tendencies, lack of empathy, and superficial charm. This analysis, broadcasted alongside the interview, ignited a public outcry. The public reaction was swift and severe. Many viewers were appalled by Mariana's demeanor and the psychologist's assessment. Legal experts and commentators began to question whether justice had truly been served, given Mariana's early release and apparent lack of remorse. The case took another dramatic turn when news broke of Maria's suicide in prison. In her final note, Maria recanted her earlier statements, placing full blame on Mariana. She claimed that Mariana had orchestrated the entire scheme, manipulating her every step of the way. Maria's note detailed a narrative of psychological manipulation and fear, painting Mariana as the true architect of the crime. The revelation led to a formal re-evaluation of the case by the Supreme Court. The new evidence, combined with the public and legal outcry following Mariana's interview, prompted a thorough investigation. The court concluded that Mariana's role had been significantly downplayed during the initial trial. Mariana was rearrested, and after a brief but intense retrial, she was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The tragic events surrounding Diogo Gonçalves' murder serve as a stark reminder of the potential for psychological manipulation and the depths of human deceit. Maria and Mariana's actions, driven by greed and desperation, led to a series of horrific events that culminated in tragedy. Their story highlights the importance of being vigilant and aware in relationships, recognizing the signs of manipulation and coercion before it's too late. If you found this story compelling, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth coverage of shocking and true crime stories. Your support helps us bring you the latest and most riveting cases. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll dive into another jaw-dropping tale of crime and mystery.